and welcome in to the latest edition in a pre-Christmas and holiday edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, presented to you today by the DetroitSportsNation.com and also Top Cat Sales in lovely and historic downtown Royal Oak. Alongside me today is my brother. He's back in the saddle today. Dom Chirco. Dom, what's going on?
Not much. Getting ready for the Christmas break and holiday season and ready to talk and dish on the Tigers and the rest of the AL Central.
Dom's on Christmas break from UDM. He's a sophomore there. He's the poli-sci major, correct? Correct me. Talk to me here, right? Poli-sci.
Political science major.
And his first semester with that major went really well, Dom, right?
Yeah, very well.
Went really
very
well.
High GPA.
You got a high GPA.
Yeah.
Above a 3.5, guys. He did it. Dom Chirco, very good for him.
Now, Dom, can you give me hookups on the Titan tickets over there at?
We got the hookup. I do too. I'm still around here and there, so I'm actually covering another game on Monday night, but at EMU. So I'll be there for the men's basketball game. But anyways, enough of that, right? We don't need to talk about UDM men's basketball right now. We need to talk about Tigers baseball and Major League Baseball news and notes. The latest off-season news and notes. And really, first and foremost, the biggest move of late for me, from the AL Central perspective, has been the White Sox making that big move for Todd Frazier, Dom. And you know it as much as I do as a big fan of the Chi Sox from the south side of Chicago. That the White Sox had to make a move, had to make some kind of big move. And they did it at a position where they were the weakest last year at third base, right, Dom?
Yep.
And now getting Frazier, a huge upgrade.
Oh, definitely. Weakest in WAR and on-base percentage at that position. You had musical chairs there throughout the year. You ended the season with Mike Olt playing third base, former first-round pick of the Chicago Cubs. Turned out to be a scrub. You've had other guys play there in the past couple years. You had Brent Lillibridge play there. And they haven't had a guy above 1 WAR since Joe Creedy.
The man, the myth, the legend from the 05 White Sox.
The 05
and he won that
White
World
Sox
Series with them. Yeah.
Drafted in 96. A position player that was drafted in 96. The White Sox have struggled to draft position players who've had impacts, not pitchers, but position players. And it's kind of fascinating to hear that since 1996, they've had that problem. And third base, too, has been a problem ever since he left. Josh Fields.
He wasn't good. A lot of guys that really haven't panned out, obviously, from their farm system. And now it's about Frazier. What is he going to produce now in that sandlot of a ballpark?
Yeah, 29 and 35 home runs, respectively, his past 2 seasons. So a lot of home runs. You're going to see the White Sox finished last in the American League in home runs. That was the first time since, I want to say, about early or upper 2000s.
Well, the thing is, how does that happen right in that ballpark?
2007 or 2008 when they had that really bad year.
So that shouldn't happen.
That should not happen in that ballpark. Again, you had musical chairs in other positions too. Second base, Micah Johnson and Carlos Sanchez were playing there off and on sporadically. But now going forward with the addition of Todd Frazier, obviously he's going to add pop. And obviously something they didn't really have was a guy that was open to talking to guys in the clubhouse. They kind of didn't have that leader. Nothing against, Jose Abreu El Oso. But
I like that. What does that mean now?
The Bear.
So, the Bear. Spanish right here. 101 from Dom Chirco.
He's more of he's a quiet, cerebral guy. He doesn't really say too much. He just came over from Cuba. He's learning the language. Other impact players, Chris Sale's not your leader type. It was good. It's good to have a guy like Frazier because it brings personality to the locker room.
Well, you know what? Sale's that fiery competitor, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
Chris Sale is more that leader than Jose Abreu. Now, Frazier's more the all-around leader for the clubhouse, but he's more that calm, cool, and collective guy, too, than a guy like Chris Sale. So that's where he elevates his status as that leader, right, of the clubhouse.
Well, you got to, Todd Frazier, you see him before every game in the dugout in Cincinnati. He has like a personal handshake. He had a personal handshake with everyone, pitching coaches, bench coaches that he's worked with in the past, players, even some in the minor leagues in Louisville. When he had a DL stint, he had he always was a good. He's always been a good guy with as far as team camaraderie and getting the guys to regroup and get together and just bring good team chemistry.
But how much does team chemistry really mean? How does it really, how much does it really impact a Major League Ball club? Because there is a debate about how much it really does do that.
Well, it's not like that's the best thing, but what you saw last year with the White Sox is when they struggled, they had no one to really, you have coaches telling them, yeah, you got to do this better and see if you make adjustments. But when someone had a streak when Avisel Garcia had a hot streak, and then all of a sudden he gets cold, and then it's the end of the world. You had no pick-me-ups. They really didn't have. They try to add guys. Last year, Carlos Sanchez was more of that guy. He came up. They started doing some stuff, with handshakes and getting together and building the team. And the infielders had this little thing where they stirring the pot every time they had an extra base hit. You saw that, but when they struggled, it was just
bad.
From what I've heard, the clubhouse was mute, and you didn't hear a pin drop when they were losing. So I think that'll help. But more importantly, Todd Frazier's
a legit major league third baseman who's an all-star.
He's he's at least a 4 WAR at third base, and he's not a replacement level guy that the White Sox have been dealing with since forever. So that right there, he's an all-star. So at a 4 WAR, that's a very good major leaguer, and he'll bring that more importantly than just the team chemistry.
The fun laughs and the good team chemistry, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how many home runs then for Frazier in his first year, donning the south side of Chicago's uniforms?
I would say I'm gonna go and say 36 home runs, and he could have 40. He could have the Josh Donaldson impact. I'm telling you.
Really, he should hit 40 consistently in that ballpark while he is in his prime. Right now, he's in his prime, obviously.
I'll be a little bit. He's playing, and you got to remember, he's in the AL Central. He's playing at Target Field in Comerica Park,
which spacious
ballparks there. I'll say he just hits under 40. I say 36 home runs, and he drives in 113. I think RBI wise, I think he's an extra base. He's an extra base guy. He's always been an extra base guy ever since he's come up. He's also a streaky hitter too, which you have to be careful and take heed because you never know. You don't want. But the difference is his streaks don't last. His cold streaks don't last as long than your typical player. And obviously, the White Sox are missing that punch in the offense.
His slumps aren't prolonged. And then their new second baseman, Brett Lowry, who was going to play third base at first, but now with Frazier, obviously, he shifts over to second. How about that addition for the White Sox, too? Because that was a big move for them as well.
Yeah, they got athletic at that position. He's a very good athlete, Brett Lowry. Obviously, defensively, he's good at third defensively, but he'll look really good at second base in a White Sox uniform defensively. Also, another thing, he brings punch and stability to the bottom of the order. Last year, the White Sox had guys hitting at the bottom of the order. A guy like Alexi Ramirez, where you had him bat anywhere in the lineup, and in the bottom of the order, he was struggling even more. When he batted 7th through 9th last year, his average was down even more. They tried to pick him up, get him going. He never got going. And then other guys, Micah Johnson, Carlos Sanchez. Micah Johnson's going to have a tough time leading off in Los Angeles if that's what they want to do because his on-base percentage is not very good. And his on-base percentage in the minors, a lot of it was just like the guy the Dodgers gave up, Peraza. A lot of it was based on hits rather than drawing walks, and that's not a good sign.
Now, obviously, you've seen the moves that have been made by the White Sox and now the moves made by the Detroit Tigers. Which ball club do you feel like improved much more significantly, the White Sox or the Tigers? Just based on the moves that were made.
You have to go with the Tigers, just because they added that bullpen. I think they fixed a problem that's been a problem forever under Dombrowski. You add a guy like Mark Lowe, K-Rod, and then you add the starting pitcher Jordan Zimmerman, who's going to be a workhorse. He slides right into that number 2 spot with the Tigers. They improved tremendously from last year already. And another thing, their offense could even be better this year. We could see an improvement from Nick Castellanos more consistently. If he fine-tunes his, another guy we talk about slumps. If he doesn't have as many slumps.
It's about not being as streaky, right, Tom? I mean, to sum it up, Frazier's not really the streaky guy that goes on these prolonged slumps. A guy like Castellanos does, and a lot of guys in the White Sox.
He did struggle in the second half, Frazier, but yeah. And another thing, I do think, though, the White Sox already had a top 5, top 8 bullpen going into this season, no matter what they did. And they signed Nate Jones to a 3-year deal, team-friendly contract. He's going to slide in. You got to remember, before 2013, the guy was 9-0 in the bullpen with a 2.58 ERA. You slide him in there, he's battled Tommy John. He comes back strong. That's going to be a really good closer potentially if David Robinson's moved to the setup role. And also, a lot of this is still contingent on what the White Sox do later on. If the White Sox add a left fielder, we're hearing
they're in the market now.
They're in the market
names,
for
aren't they?
Yeah, they're 10th in payroll. It looks like they're going to be fine with not paying the luxury tax. They want to move Adam LaRoche's contract. He's making $13 million next season. They want to move that. They want to trade Avi Garcia. The situation there is not good. They've tried to move these guys. They haven't found a partner yet, especially when you have guys that are cheaper, like a Pedro Alvarez out there, who for first base in the American League, talk about a guy that could rake when he comes to the American League. Pedro Alvarez, you don't have to play him every day. You can DH and whatnot. But the White Sox, a lot of this is contingent on how much more they add in the offense. And
how much money they're willing to spend then to upgrade the offense too, and also in left field specifically,
and if
we were talking about.
If they add, let's say, an Upton, a Cespedes, or a Gordon, along with another cheap right-handed starting pitcher, because they have probably an issue there right now.
At the back end, right?
At the back end, because you have Eric Johnson, who probably will take over the fourth starter's role, and he's going to be their only right-handed starter as of right now, so they really need another right-handed starter. If they do that, I think White Sox and Tigers are right there. I think the worst two teams last year are going to be the best.
Let's rank the division in a little bit, but I like what the White Sox have done too. I like what the Tigers have done, and I like that you like what the Tigers have done, Dom. And I think John Macron, Doc is here. He asked that question earlier. A poignant, brilliant question as usual from the Doc, John Macron. And I wanted to get into as well these three top names that you brought up for left field that many teams are looking at right now to fill the void that they presently have in left field. Cespedes, Gordon, Justin Upton. For me, I like Cespedes and Gordon. Upton's a third option. I think he is for a lot of ball clubs right now. But who's the best one of those three? You know, if you're the White Sox, if you're the Tigers looking for that left fielder via the free agent market, and if you're going big money, spending whatever you have to, who's the best guy to get of those three options in left field?
It's hard to go against Yoenis Cespedes, but it depends. A lot of it is dependent on the team's need for whether you want to upgrade a defense, because we saw what's happened in San Diego, or what had happened in San Diego with the mess out there in the outfield defensively. So if you want to go, you add a guy like Upton for offensive purposes, that looks good, or Cespedes can do both. He doesn't cover. We saw his error he made in the World Series.
I was playing center field. Tigers won't be having him play center field.
Well, none of those teams will have him play center field.
He just had to. He was forced.
But if I have to go with the best defensive guy, it's Alex Gordon.
By far, I agree.
It's no question.
Even last year, Dom, I wrote this article about these left fielders that the Tigers might be looking at if they want to spend the big money. Gordon put up 7 defensive runs saved above average in 101 games played. If he played a full season, that would have been 14,
season, he would have
right?
At least 14.
Think about that. Gordon did that well in that little of time. And then Cespedes won the Gold Glove, remember, in left field. With the Tigers, surprisingly, I thought Kinsler would win it. Then a guy that didn't even play the full season with the Tigers wins the Gold Glove. And he was worth 11 defensive runs saved above average with the Tigers, 15 overall in left field, counting his time with the Mets, too. So you got Gordon and Cespedes. Upton's a distant
and a lot
third
of it,
because of that lack of defense.
Exactly, and a lot of it, two Gold Glove outfielders, Cespedes and Gordon, but a lot of it's going to be, do you need another right-handed bat? Do you both these guys, they have familiarity with playing in this division, the AL Central. So if let's say the Tigers or White Sox choose one, you really can't go wrong in this spot.
Let's ask now the Doc. John Macron, who would you like the most of those guys if you're the Tigers, Mike Ilitch, they're willing to spend the big money to upgrade that left field position? You want Upton, Cespedes, or Gordon right now?
No, quite frankly, exactly. I think what the Tigers need now is a defensive outfielder at the likes of Gordon. Cespedes, I think we're priced out of. I do believe, though, he will find some big money in terms of where he's going to end up. So in terms of what he's looking for and what the length of contract that he's going to command with his productivity, it's too much for the Tigers. Gordon is a nice, solid fit. I know they got Aviles to be the platoon guy and likely the guy they're going to use out there in the outfield. Tyler Collins is going to earn a spot, most likely get a chance first crack to make the squad and be out there. But, right now as it shakes out, I'm not really impressed with what they've done in the outfield in terms of adding Cameron Maben. You're going to have Collins. You're going to have J.D. Martinez out there. So Ghost is going to be in there too in the outfield. So I'm not really all that impressed with the outfield. But, what are you going to do?
Dom Chirco, big White Sox fan, but he's a realistic Major League Baseball fan as well. And he knows, Anthony Ghost is not a good player. He's not one of your favorite players.
He was shaking his head ferociously. I was like,
he already was when you were talking about him. Just bringing up the name makes him think bad thoughts and makes him shake his head. And he's your least favorite player in Major League Baseball? It seems like he's right up there with the least favorite guys that you watch in the
Yeah,
Picks right now.
I don't. He takes.
Say he sucks.
I want to say that
He does suck, right?
He sucks,
He's told me off the air, trust me,
okay.
many times that he
It's
sucks.
okay.
And he's had a few other choice words to use regarding Ghost in the past, okay?
Oh.
That's how much he dislikes Anthony Ghost. But realistically, as you said, the Tigers' outfield right now is not even close to being impressive. It's very under-impressive.
What'd you guys think of the move to bring in Aviles? 35 years old. I mean, a guy. I looked at his numbers. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Another career 265 hitter. A guy who's going to be 35 before the season starts. I'm like, seriously? What do you
think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they did it because of the splits. I think they're thinking that they're going to platoon there.
I looked at the splits, too. Last year's splits weren't good for him. Now, you have to go all the way back to 2011 with the Bo Sox, where he was last really relevant as a guy that hit, from the right side against lefties, because Collins is a left-hander, hits against righties pretty well. But now you need that other guy to platoon with Collins out there and left. Aviles as a right-hander really isn't that guy anymore. Maybe he used to be, when he put up, all-star caliber numbers there with the Bo Sox, but that was a long time ago now. And he's in his mid-30s. I don't think he's as relevant or as good of an option to use as that platoon guy in left field for the Tigers at this point.
Yeah, I feel like Al Avila started off with a bang, and the last set of moves he's made have kind of left me going, oh. And a move that really disappointed the doc, I'm going to share a little bit later. He made a move recently and broke my little baseball heart, and I'll share it.
I know what it is already. We've talked about him.
Yeah, quite a bit. So stay tuned, and I'll share my feelings regarding the departure of one of my favorites. I'm really sad, so stay tuned. I'll share it later.
We'll talk about that guy later. But Dominic, let me get your thoughts now on Mike Aviles. Him playing left field for the Tigers, not going to be the full-time starter, but at his advanced age now for a Major League Baseball player. With his numbers from last year, when realistically, Dom, you know this as much as I do, he was an automatic out last year for the Indians. Indians did not want to see him face anybody at the plate. And now he's going to be the platoon guy for a team that wants to be a competitive ball club, a contender in the AL Central? I don't think so, Dom. I don't think he'll cut the mustard seed.
David Murphy and Gerardo Power are still out there, too.
So you're saying really right now, and I think we all agree upon this, they have to get somebody else. They can't start from day one and opening day, Collins and then Aviles be that other guy that starts there, or Maben. They got to upgrade that position still at this point. Or they're not going to win the division. They're not going to win the division right now, guys, right? If they don't upgrade that position. That's what I think, at least, Dom. What do you think?
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, you can't. He's done. 2011, like you mentioned, his last year, good year. He's 35 years old now. He's not a traditional outfielder.
Anyways, he's an infielder. You're right.
He's an infielder
Utility
playing
guy.
the outfield.
Yep. He's not good with the glove either. I mean, what does he bring? That's why it was such a questionable move.
See, the thing is, maybe Al Avila is thinking he's looking for a right-handed guy in the outfield to platoon potentially as maybe a fallback option. And what he's seen guys that are left-handed. David Murphy's left-handed. Alex Gordon's left-handed. I don't know if it has anything to do with handedness, but if it does, there's not a lot of great options. But I still think it's better than the options. The free agent options are better than
the Tigers
trading for Aviles. Yeah.
And it was cheap, $2 million for 1 year, and then there's an incentive there, a bonus if he does this or that. I don't even know what it is, but I don't even care because I don't think he's even good enough to last the whole entire season on the roster. I mean, if he plays like he did last year, Doc, he's not going to last the whole entire season.
Yeah, and let's not poo-poo the fact that Rajai Davis now went over to Cleveland. I felt like Rajai Davis brought a lot to the team. Now, the problem you see with a guy like that is he was inconsistent at the plate. He'd have streaks where he'd, get on base regularly, he'd get walks, and then he'd go cold. And it was tough because I really believe that the organization took a look at those advanced sabermetrics and said, you know what? We're foreshadowing a dip and decline in terms of overall offensive capabilities. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that because Rajai Davis was a guy that kind of stirred the offense a little bit when he got on base. He would, make sure he would kind of, because of his ability to steal, he would keep the pitcher honest and keep him in the back of his mind because that dude could flat out steal bases. And, in terms of a team that, I know you're going to count on Ghost a little bit more to steal and things like that. And Cameron Maben is a fleet of foot too. He's really fast. But I'm a little bit disappointed that Davis is gone. I thought you could have squeezed maybe one more year out of him.
He's a better option, but he's 35.
What about a guy like bringing back Matt Joyce?
More pop than Mike Aviles. Rajai Davis
Tyler
is more
Collins.
pop. Mm-hmm. Rajai Davis is more pop, and he's a speedster, like you said. Now, this is one thing to note, though. Last year, this is a sign that he's probably on the decline, too. Last year, his stolen base total was the lowest of his career, Rajai Davis.
Right.
They're seeing the decline happening. But Mike Aviles has been on the decline forever and ever now.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, you go from Davis to this, it's not an upgrade or even close to even being a wash, right, Tom? It's not even a
I
wash
don't
right
think,
now.
Yeah, it's not. Rajay Davis is a better outfielder.
Yeah. But I think also he looked at the defensive sabermetrics, those stats, and he looked at Davis in center field a lot better than he is in left field, which I still don't get how that's possible. But those are the stats, right?
A lot of it, yeah. It's not his natural position. That it comes down to that. And you are right. His defensive runs saved were, what was it? I think 4 or 5 points higher in center field than left field.
I believe it. I think it's something like that, yeah.
And then his UZR, his zone rating, is obviously higher because he covers ground. He's a guy that has to run a little bit to get going. Anthony Ghost is a very good first step, but Rajay Davis, if you watch him in left field, it's a little tricky for him because he has to get going. He's not used to he doesn't have the quickest first step, even though he steals bases and you see it. It takes him a while not a while, but a little bit longer to chug and get going at left field. That could be part of the problem.
Who would you like more in center field for the Tigers right now, Davis or Ghost? I know you hate Ghost, but Davis is aging. But we see the numbers too, like we just said, and those numbers back up what he's done in center field.
Anthony Ghost to me is just an athlete playing baseball.
That's why you don't like him. Dom doesn't like those kind of guys that are just athletes. He's a pure athlete, a speedster, but the baseball skills,
he has
right, or the acumen, right, for the game of baseball.
Acumen, I think his acumen's off. He plays every player. If you just watch him, if you go to a game and watch him in center field, he starts in the same spot every time. It's just shallow, and he plays a little bit to the left of home plate. And you see him, he's playing shallow, and he gets burned. He can make he can make all these catches, but so many times we've seen him. He has a great arm too. But
there's one compliment about Ghost, by the way, from Dominic. He could do that much.
He was a pitcher in high school and he threw around 90 miles per hour. But he has trouble out there because he doesn't take the best routes. And if you look at weighted sabermetrics in the outfield, people marvel at the plays he's made, but he wasn't that great. I want to say he was a 0.1 WAR or an defensive WAR, which is below 1.
When he gets burned on a play against the White Sox, Dom's clapping and loving every single moment of it. So, it does happen. I'll give Dom that much.
What I like about Dom is that he's trying to be nice at the same time while saying basically, and I can say it for you, dude, if we want to win a World Series, a guy like Ghost should not be on our rosters, dude. What the hell? I mean, you saw what he did in Toronto. What did Dave Dombrowski see and Mr. Avila, because he's, was behind the scenes at the time. What the hell did they see him bringing this bum here? Come on, man. Let's go. We want to build a championship team, and I don't see a guy like Ghost spraying the champagne in the Tigers locker room. Dude, come on now. Let's go.
So you know what, guys? Doc, first with you. Who's the starting center fielder and left fielder as of right now for the Tigers come opening day 2016?
Just to get my positions correct, I believe Tyler Collins will be in left field.
Yep.
And I believe Ghost will be the starting center fielder. I just think...
And that's bad.
Yeah,
that's pretty inept right there. If you want to contend for a division title, you're not going to win any division with that alignment in the outfield.
Exactly.
Even with Martinez, who's a really good outfielder and right, that's still a stinky outfield.
Look at his... on opening day,
if they stick with this roster.
If they stick with the roster, I'm going to have to go with Maben in center, and I'm going to say Collins in left.
Well, I know you would start Maven in center.
Because I would do it.
Yeah.
Without question, I would do it. And he had his best. He said in Atlanta last year, he had his best year at 10 home runs. He drove in runs for Atlanta.
But what happened to him in the second half? He really tailed off. He had the cornea, right? Didn't he have problems with that?
Yeah, he did. He did have the eye problem. But you can go wrong either way here because both those guys slid in the second half, and Anthony Ghost hit what in the second half?
It's going to be a race to 270. I mean, really, it's going to be like...
If you can get to 270, if you can get to 260, 265, you're going to start more than the other guy. It's really as simple as that.
No kidding. I mean, literally, outside of the big guys, the big money guys on offense, you literally got a lineup offensively full of guys that bat between 250 and 280. Literally, that's what you got. You got the guys like V-Mart, Miguel Cabrera, McCann, and Castellanos that are going to do good. JD's going to hit for power. But the rest of the guys, the lower half of the lineup and a little bit at the top, got hit better for average, for sure.
Well, you know what, guys? I'll say this much. I like 4 guys right now for their lineup. I like Cabby, I like Iglesias, Kinsler, and I like JD. Everybody else is going to be streaky, inconsistent, or hurt way too often. And V-Mart's included in that bunch right now. I don't trust in V-Mart going forward.
Really?
No, I think he's injury prone. I think he's washed up, at least to a certain extent, to the point where you can't trust him anymore. So he's not completely damaged goods. I'm not going to say that, but I think he'll be a streaky guy from here on out who will be injury prone. 3 more years of the deal are coming, including 2016. Way too many years. And you know what? They thought they would get 2 quality years out of him last year and this year. Now it's only this year. You're not going to get anything, I think, out of him after this year.
I disagree. I think he's a professional hitter. I think he's got a couple years left. And after what you saw last year with the disappointment in terms of the injuries, I disagree. I think this year will be a good year, and I do believe he could extend it into maybe not the power numbers that you might be expecting, but I do think that he can be that contact hitter, get on base quite a bit. He's a professional hitter. You don't just forget how to hit. Once he gets in a groove, he's one of the best in baseball. Not just on the Tigers, the best in baseball. So a guy, water finds his level. He'll be around 300.
Well, trust me, I hope he bounces back.
Agree,
I really do, but I don't think it will happen. But Dominic,
I agree
you agree
too.
with Doc?
Yeah, and he battled the knee. He better. He battled the knee problems last year. I expect him to bounce back to his usual 280, 290, and like Doc said, I don't see the home runs will probably dip because of the age, and we've seen it. But yeah, he's a good hitter, great eye, good on base guy. Everything you can ask for in a professional hitter.
So how many quality hitters right now do the Tigers possess then? Because, I mean, that would be 5 for me if I included Vmart. So I have 4 that I really think are quality hitters. Going
You don't
into
think
2016.
Vmart's quality?
A quality hitter that will be consistent. I'm talking about consistency from day in, day out, the whole entire season if they stay healthy. I think Vmart, even if he does stay healthy, is going to be more streaky than not. Better than last year, okay? He's not going to be as bad as last year. I know that much too. But at his age right now, facing all the stuff that he has for a guy that doesn't really play in the field, really can't move that well, I think he's a guy that will be limited, even more than he has been in the past. But still a little bit better than last year because he was hurt so often last year. But Dom, for you, how many quality hitters do the Tigers possess right now?
Well, okay, Kinsler, JD, Miguel, Victor, and Iglesias.
You're saying 5. You're really only one more than me. I mean, that's a good lineup, though, actually. When you have 5 consistent guys, you really can't beat that because, the White Sox last year, to be fair to you, fair to the White Sox, they weren't really that good. They weren't deep. They didn't have 4 guys.
No, and even the players they added via free agency last year, LaRoche and Milky, they weren't reliable for the whole season.
Doc, how many quality guys? I know you think there's more than I do.
No, I do. I agree. I think around 5 quality hitters. You're hoping that, McCann comes through. You're hoping that the new additions maybe have a little bit better year. And so we'll see what happens. But the offense definitely needs to click and help out that pitching rotation and that bullpen. The Tigers team is very interesting because it can really go either way. They can get really hot and really have a productive offensive season, or if certain people don't stay healthy, if a guy like Miggy and Vmart don't stay healthy, that shakes up the lineup quite a bit. Now, JD was able to kind of move up a little bit and contribute when these guys went out, but it's no argument. He's a much better hitter when Vmart's there and Miguel's there. So if they can just stay healthy, however possible, however way that needs to take place, they got to stay healthy, and you're going to have a chance to compete. If there's no health, I don't think that the team's going to be able to weather it.
But guys, the best Martinez right now is JD, right?
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And that's right. That's the reason why we're not seeing all that spending. They're trying to line up that big old cash for him, and they're praying. They want him to have a good year, but they don't want him to have a 45 home run year because they're going to be paying $25 million a year plus. So they're probably thinking, okay, we want him to be productive. We want him to have, again, 38 home runs, around 90 to 110 RBIs, and maybe a good 2-3 week stint on the DL. That's fine. We'll take it. You know what? Because if he
keep down the price, because right now it's going to be.
It's starting
astronomically high.
Right now, it's around 18 and 19. His value. It's around 18, 19. If he puts up 45 home runs again, well over 120 RBIs, and he's getting all those hits again, and he's mashing, dude was putting together home run streaks that were amazing. So if he's like that, you're going to be talking about 22, 25.
He'll be getting
plus.
20 plus mil. Yeah, right now I would say
so
15 down.
I'll give you a comparison. Hayward, 18 mil.
What he got paid.
Oh.
So you're saying JD Martinez right now, if you were to resign him, he would get paid that much money. Now, on the open market, it's even more money. So, I mean, how much on the open market, if he was a free agent right now, like Hayward was, like Upton is, like Cespedes is, like Gordon is, how much would JD get paid right now, annually?
You could command 20, 21 million a year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he's so young, too, right? And he's a good fielder. He's proven that now in right field.
So he definitely...
And more power.
He's definitely hoping Cespedes breaks the bank at this age, too. So he knows what's going on, and he has to show it. He's got to show it. I would have maybe took a deal this year if they would have offered it to him, but I think he's waiting out. He's writing it out, and he's going to try to break the bank with one more good year.
And Doc, you and I talked about whether or not the Tigers, Al Avila and company should re-sign him right now. And we kind of said that they probably should if it is the right price. Now, Dominic, we haven't asked you this yet. Should they re-sign him right now while they still can at a relatively good price for the Tigers and for JD at the same time?
Yeah, I think so too, because you're going to have an issue where do we find this money for him? Because you have Verlander's contract, Miggy's contract. You still have V-Mart's contract, and eventually you're going to have to pay a guy like, what do you think about Iglesias? What do you think about Castellanos if he has a big year? What do you think about James McCann? I mean, obviously it helps. These guys are going to be arbitration eligible still, but
Dom, you didn't hear the press conference? Mr. I said, hey, now, when it comes to the money, I got a bunch of it, and we're going to pay it out. So what are you talking about? He's going to spend the money, and if Mr. Alavila GM says, hey, this is the guy that's going to help us win, they're paying him, or they're going to leave. Period is that, just like that. So I have confidence that the core, Iglesias, McCann, are going to stay with this team. JD, that's a core. That's a solid core you can do some damage with for many years. I don't think they don't typically want these guys to leave, and they have been shown to overpay and keep these guys here if they've been productive and good guys. These guys are the core. They're going to pay them. It's just the problem. What we want is we want to solidify the team with some free agent dollars.
An outsider.
Yeah.
Yes, like a Cespedes who was here in Motown last year, was really good, put up the 11 defensive runs, saved above average in left field, all the power numbers.
And
so
what we're
he'd be a good signing for the Tigers. But like you said, probably way too much money at this point, too.
What we're seeing, too, now, I think, is a reduction in terms of the arms race on the Tigers side. They're not going to go out there and get every single top free agent, and they're going to try now to, put together a winning club while keeping the budget in order, and at the same time, they got to address the minors. If you can get cheaper guys like a McCann up here, then you're in much better shape. They have to address the minor leagues because obviously what the quick-term solution is to go out and spend $300 million this year and buy a World Series. That's what we all want. Go out and get Cespedes. Go out and get Greinke and just buy one. Hell, we'd all take it and then to decimate. We'd be good for the next 10 years. But they can't do that. They're not doing that. They can't do that. So with them not doing that, they got to find that right balance of PR, keep us, podcasters off their ass and be like, how do we placate these guys? They brought in Zimmerman. They brought in these nice guys. But as of now, they're not a World Series team. I'm not impressed yet. They got to show me. They got to show me a lot more. A lot more.
They're not going to pay the big bucks on the open market anymore. But it's about keeping the core intact, and I think they will. JD Martinez, like you were saying, Iglesias, Miguel Cabrera, I include in that core as well. James McCann, maybe even Nick Castellanos if he keeps improving at third base defensively and offensively. I see him being moved one day, by the way, to left field, to a corner outfield
And I think
spot.
another thing, if you ask any team's preference, they don't want a guy to go to free agency.
And you want to get him while you still can, like the Rays, what they have to do. A team that's a small market ball club, they always have to do that. Re-sign the player while he's on your ball club. Don't let him reach the open market because you never know what he will get paid on the open market. But anyways, I wanted to ask you two really quick, Don, before we take a quick commercial break here on Tigers Talk. The pitching rotation now, the core of that going forward. You've got Daniel Norris, Michael Fulmer. How about Anibal Sanchez now? Where does he fit into that core? Because I think he might be damaged goods. And really the debate is, for me, who's more damaged goods right now, Vmart or Anibal? Both injury prone, both older and older now, not getting any younger. And I think on the downside of their careers.
Yeah, you can't argue that they're not in their downside of their careers. Anibal, again, he's hurt. He's been hurt. He tries to get cute out there a few times. We've seen it. He either overthrows or some nights you see him and he's not throwing hard. A lot of that might have to do with the wear and tear of his right arm, being the age that he is now. I absolutely agree with you. I think he's going to be the odd man out at some point, especially with Fulmer coming up. And I could see him struggling right from the get-go, Anibal, as the season proceeds, and we'll see what happens. But I would have to say he's the odd man out in that rotation. And like you said, damaged goods.
I think Norris maybe could even surpass him in 2016 as that number 3 guy in the rotation. Because right now, he's slotted in as the number 3 guy behind Jordan Zimmerman and JV, Justin Verlander. But for me, I don't see him lasting long-term. As you were saying, Dom, and he's injury-prone. He's 31, not extremely old, but he's had some injuries.
He's had elbow problems.
Yep. And look at his ERA from last year. I mean, look at what he did last year when he did start. It wasn't good. Near 5 ERA, a 4.99 ERA, I believe 500 record-wise, 10-10 it was, and all the home runs allowed.
Yeah, he's
at Comerica Park, a pitcher's-friendly ballpark, allowing 29 home runs. And whenever you have an ERA near 5, even though FIP fielding independent pitching is more that earned run average that we like to look at to evaluate a pitcher and his quality of success, still, that's a glaring sign that he's on the downside of his career right now.
Another thing, you look at FIP Plus, which is
another good advanced sabermetric mark to look at to evaluate.
It's ballpark oriented. When you see that, and that's high, wherever he's going, wherever he pitches, every fifth day, he has an issue with giving up the long ball. And that is a problem that usually carries on year after year especially a guy that's getting older like Anibal. I expect Daniel Norris to surpass him.
So wait, in 2017, can we see the 1 through 3 in the Tigers rotation being JV, Zimmerman, and then Daniel Norris?
Yeah, that's going to be your 1 through 3.
I think so as well.
Yes.
So we both agree upon that, and agree upon more than I thought maybe going into today's podcast, Tigers Talk with Chirco and Co. And with that, Dom, Mr. Adidas, I'm Mr. Adidas, by the way, too, Top Cat Sales here. We're taking a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with you after the break to talk more about the Tigers and to also play our interview with our guest from today, Mr. John Weinsberg, a great commentator all across the nation. Looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan quarterback John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the highest quality and the best service. Get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going to TopCatTeamSales.com. Also follow Top Cat on Twitter at Team Top Cat. John Weinsberg here now with me on Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. John, how's it going today?
Good to be here. I appreciate you calling me. It's about local time right now, about 10:52 here in Salem, Oregon. It's good to be on the show.
Well, good. You know what? How is Oregon, by the way? How do you like living there, John? Tell us that.
It's a good state. I came back, I was living in L.A. for a couple of years covering the Lakers and, the L.A. Sparks. It's a good environment to be in. I'd have to say, Oregon it's a nice area to be in. Duck pride. That's what we say back in Oregon. So, it's good to be on the show today. What do we want to talk about?
Okay, you know what? We're going to talk some baseball. I know you're a big baseball fan, and there's been some really big moves of late. And one of the biggest ones of late in the American League Central was Todd Frazier from the Reds being traded to the White Sox. Big move for the White Sox, getting a huge upgrade offensively at third base, even defensively to a certain degree. What do you think about that move yourself, though, John?
I'd have to tell you, Todd Frazier, he's one of those guys. I think the best way to probably describe Todd is, he's a cross between, I'd say, like a Jeff Kunkel and Pete Rose. He's got that awesome glove work. He's working hard in the bullpen, and he goes out on the field and he really pulls out his bat. And he's like, you know what? It's time to play some baseball. He's a guy that's versatile. He throws the baseball to first base when he wants to make the outs. And you got to look at it this way. What kind of athlete do you want? You want an athlete that gambles, or you want an athlete that spends some time in the bullpen with the pitchers? And I'm telling you right now, that's why I'd say it's a great cross between Pete Rose and Jeff Kunkel.
Now, Todd Frazier spending time in the bullpen, how does that influence and impact his game as a hitter, though? I mean, he plays third base. He's a fielder, not a pitcher.
Well, he's a guy, he's a team player. That's what you want. He kind of reminds me of a good friend of mine, Russ Wilson, back in Oregon, I sit and talk to Russ. We meet a couple times a week, and, he's a team player. He has a team atmosphere here for the 12th man. And, Todd sits with the pitchers, and he says, listen, you throw the pitches, I'm going to catch them. And, that's the way you got to look at it. You got to be a team. It's a team atmosphere, there in Chicago. They're going to accept it, and they're going to like it, and they're going to respect it. That's the way I look at it. Todd, he's got good things coming.
So, John, how is it hanging out with Russell Wilson, by the way? How is that, and where do you guys hang out at?
I think that's kind of a wrong. We're on a sports talk show. I think this is Tigers Talk with Rashad Phillips and Chirco Co. So
yeah, Rashad's not on this one.
Baseball.
Yeah, you want to talk baseball today, John? Okay, we got you then, buddy. So let's talk about the Tigers then, huh? Because it is Tigers Talk, as you said, with Chirco and Company. I'm your host, Vito Chirco. John Weinsberg on with me. John, the biggest Tigers move of late really was Mike Aviles, a utility guy for the infield, the outfield, and he's a guy that played with the Indians, has played with the Bo Sox, was actually good with the Boston Red Sox, but it seems like a long time ago now. It was 2011 when he was last very relevant at the plate. So with all that being said, what have you thought of the Tigers' offseason so far?
I got to tell you something about the Tigers. I was recently on your show, the Five Wide Nation Sport Live, across the nationwide sports show about back in March. And, I made a great pick like I always do. I picked KC Royals to make the World Series, and sure enough, who was in the World Series were KC Royals. So, I'm going to make another pick right now. I'm going to say right now the Detroit Tigers, they're not going to be making the World Series for at least the next 10 years. They're an organization that, can't, get into the driver's seat. They can make the World Series, but have we seen a ring? We haven't, because they're missing pieces. And, the bullpen's been a big issue for them. And, another big issue for them is just the hitting. They can't hit all year. Sometimes they'll go, about 2-3 weeks, they'll hit the baseball, and next thing you know, they can't hit the ball. I mean, you're paying Miggy Cabrera about $600 million, and the guy can't hit a baseball. He takes months off. I mean, we got to start looking at our budget. And Justin Verlander, who's that? He's sitting and focusing on taking naked selfies with Kate Upton. Why don't we start focusing on some baseball and not, taking pictures? And I don't know what to say.
Well, that's interesting, but I was going to ask you, too, they need some hitting help, and they just got Mike Aviles to play maybe left field. What do you think about that move as well? Mike Aviles, is a humble guy, a good character guy for the clubhouse, good
Mike
family
Aviles,
guy.
he's a guy coming out of, the Boston Red Sox nation. He works hard with the baseball players, and, I got to say, he doesn't have, one of the best Detroit Tigers, Marcus Thames, he just doesn't have that utility work that, Marcus Thames would bring to the baseball Tigers team. And, and some of that Mike Aviles, he's going to work hard on it. He works hard in practice. He works with the coaches. He kind of reminds me of a young Jason Kidd. So I think, if you really put the work out there, there's a good chance that, we could see some good things out of Aviles. But I'm still telling you, it's going to be 10 years before the Tigers even sniff a World Series. And you heard that here. They're not going to be making – I don't even think they'll make the playoffs this year coming up, to be honest with you.
Who's your favorite right now to win the Fall Classic?
Well, it's too early to tell, honestly. You got to wait till about the end of April, I'd say beginning of May, and then I'd be able to give you an honest estimate. If I recall correctly, I was on your show again. 3 years in a row I made the right pick. So, you just come to me in March, May, and, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what it is. I'm not afraid to say it. I don't mince words. I'm not here to dick around. I'm here to give you the picks.
So tell me then, the last 3 years that you've picked the right team to win it all in Major League Baseball, who were those
I
three
picked the
teams?
Boston Red Sox to win it. I picked the Giants to win the World Series. And this year I picked the KC Royals to make it to the World Series. I didn't pick them to win. I picked them to make it. And did they make the World Series? You're damn right they did. I mean, that's the thing with, being my caliber, and you go cover around the country, you're in L.A., you're all across the nation, you're going to be making picks, and, when you get them right, people start listening. That's why I've got a big following, People listen to what I have to say because, they realize something. They're like, this guy actually knows his shit,
How many followers do you have, by the way, John, on Twitter right now? And also, do you have more followers?
I don't even pay attention to my Twitter, honestly, because that's how many people have followed me. I don't give a shit. I don't need to look at
what's a
Twitter
huh?
follower to me. I don't need that. The more important thing is when I walk outside in the morning and I get in my car and all the people outside my driveway, that's all that matters to me.
You have how many people in your driveway?
All my driveway. I see I pull out of my driveway, there's women crying. Just by the sight of me, they're crying because they're like, look at that guy. He gives the best action in the sports life.
Yeah.
And they just cry. They cry seeing my sights. So, I don't know what to say. I don't care about the Instagrams, the snap faces, or whatever you get to do nowadays.
And with that, we're going to end today's segment here on Chirco and Company. Thank you very much, as usual, John, for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been great to talk to you. I appreciate Dom Chirco for being on, too. I know Dom's been doing a lot of work out there. And I got to tell you, too, something, Dom. I see a lot of potential out of you in regards to, your career. And, you're going to do well. Your brother, Vito Chirco or whatever the hell his name is, he's not bad, but you're going to do better, buddy. So thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. It's coming on to be about 11 o'clock here on Oregon time. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks. God bless and have a good one.
Thank you, John. And thanks to Mr. John Weinsberg for joining us today on the podcast. Great stuff from him. He follows a lot of sports, and he's very sarcastic and has a quite eccentric personality at the same time, Dom, doesn't he? And we know John. We're good friends with him, too.
Yeah,
quite the colorful, very colorful guy.
He's a traveler. He's a wanderer. He's a gypsy.
Very anecdotal, very colorful all the time, and a little bit out there, but good stuff from him today on Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. And Dominic is in the saddle today. You heard from Dominic already about the White Sox, their latest move for Todd Frazier, the Todd father, right? They call him there. Full of energy, good for the clubhouse in Chi-Town on the south side of Chicago. And we said they needed that clubhouse leader,
they need
too.
A vibrant leader like him.
And now the Tigers might need to follow suit and get that big move themselves. Will it happen, though? I don't think so at this point. And let's just ask that really quick here in this pre-Christmas edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company roundtable discussion here. And Doc, will they sign that big-name free agent that's out there, left out there right now? Or will they just stick with the roster that they have and go into opening day with it?
Yeah, the funny part is that, Dave Dombrowski would do that kind of thing where he'd be like, well, yeah, we're all done for the offseason, and then everyone would get excited, and all of a sudden, bam, you got Prince Fielder on the team. Or bam, you got another great free agent that he picked up and paid a lot of money to. So part of my little intuition says that they've tried to reach out to Cespedes and maybe put out an offer, but I'm hesitant to say that he's done because I feel like as those words leave my mouth, then the next day there'll be a press conference and he's going to bring in a guy like Gordon or going to bring in a guy like Cespedes. So, my intuition tells me no, that the budget's pretty much set. They don't want to go that much over the cap. I mean, you don't bring in an Aviles to then bring in another, outfielder. So I feel like they're done on that front, and I really believe like they're going to go to spring training with the roster that we got now. So I don't see it, but I'm 90% confident because if I do say it, then I know that they're gonna prove me wrong and go out there and get a big name. I want them to. I really think that Cespedes would be a nice fit here. It's just the money's too much, and it's kind of unfortunate because that press conference set the tone. If they just didn't have that, where Mr.
He led you on, and you feel bad because of that, right?
I can't get over it. Like he said, money's not an object. If money's not an object,
then sign the dang guy that's the best left fielder on the market. Right, it's a position that you need the most right now offensively.
Exactly. So I can't get over the feeling like we're trying to shop for filet mignon, but we're trying to get out there with a flank steak. We're
getting McDonald's right now,
Yeah,
and we just did, by the way, during this podcast today for lunch. But anyways, I think their Christmas shopping is done, and I think it's because the days of Dave D are done. Obviously, at this point, Alavila is the new man in charge, new regime, new direction the Tigers are going into, more cost-effective methods and ways, and also they're trying to build from within. Right down, they're doing that more and more as well.
Mm-hmm. And Alavila has, we've heard the story about him with the contracts, driving in Cuba, Latin America, handing out contracts to anyone he saw. We saw he was a scout. He's had experience in that department. I think you have to improve the farm system for where they've been at. They've been anywhere from 27 to 32 the past 6 seasons in farm system rankings. So I think you'll see that. And again, they have they have a top 10 pick this season. You can't mess up a first round pick in the top 10 in Major League Baseball in this day and age, especially if you want to trade those guys for someone else, someone bigger at some point, who's also cost controllable.
They're emphasizing the scouting more. You're right, Dom. And they're building up the analytics department. They didn't have an analytics department before with Dave D in charge. There was no analytical mindset or thinking really from within. Yeah, now they do with Alavila, some other guys that have been hired recently that we've talked about too, Doc, on the podcast. Dom?
And that could help in the minors. It can help a guy like Jacoby Jones, who big power, but he's off. Obviously, you see off-field issues, but he's had problems really getting on base via walks, and he swings a lot. He's a little too aggressive right now.
So play some small ball. Play some of that Billy Bean ball, right?
Develop a guy
with the athletic sitting on base.
Develop a guy that let him know where you have to improve. If he's too stubborn to improve or try to get better by drawing walks, then you move on from the guy.
Then you deal him for an upgrade at the major league level. But you have to really develop these guys while they're in the farm system.
Yeah, they have to be developed.
Right, they got to make their improvements while they're in the farm system.
The Yankees they did that with Greg Bird, who was AFL MVP last year. They developed him in the farm system, and he wasn't as ready as they'd hoped for with Teixeira going down. But a guy like that, you could see where he had the moxie, the plate discipline, not expected of a young guy, and he did.
But he got his improvements out of the way in the farm system. The Yankees are building that way now, a big market club.
And he still has room to improve.
And the Mets are doing it now. The Royals have done it. Now the Tigers are following suit and going in that more analytical direction of also building from within. And look at their increased pitching depth now, Doc, and you had a point too.
Yeah, exactly. The pitching depth has gotten to the point where a guy that I was a favorite of...
Yes, it segues perfectly into this discussion here. That's why I wanted to bring it up, Doc.
That's right. A move that made me go,
this is bad.
And...
why?
I'm just like, when I heard it, I was like, you let go of Kyle Lobstein to the Pirates for cash considerations. I mean, he did fall off in the second half of last year, but I still can't get over the guy that his early starts against the Yankees and what he did. I mean, dang, they gave up a guy that quickly. I'm like, wow, I would love to be in that meeting where they talked about Lobstein. You let him go for cash considerations. And I just got a feeling like he's going to come back to haunt you and have a solid career. I feel like a guy like that, I know you designated him for assignment to bring in Aviles. It just kind of sucks. I feel like that's one of Aviles' first moves that you kind of go, that could come back to bite you. I'm a little bit disappointed.
Well, I know you are.
I'm sad.
You know, I would DFA a guy like Lobstein. Now, they do have the pitching depth now, so they have that room to maybe do it, but get something for him. But also, here's the fact that if you're going to DFA a guy like that, well, get somebody in return that's a little bit better than Mike Aviles, right? I mean, you got Aviles, And that's why you DFA'd him. I don't like that.
A lot of the difference is, I think a lot of it has to do with Dombrowski era. You saw more. You didn't see quality, but they're trying to get quality out of guys. And by trading just for a guy, for example, they rebounded and traded Sessa, who was a depth guy who Dombrowski probably would have kept, and he wouldn't have done anything because he's a fringe player, to be honest with you. And they got a guy in Justin Wilson who was a vital force for the Yankees down the stretch in the bullpen and a good left-handed arm. So I think what they're trying to do is get quality, young quality, rather than just depth. And if they don't believe the guy is, even though he provides depth, they're going to say no to him because he doesn't provide the necessary quality at the major league level.
Well, yeah, it's about the quality of Lobstein's stuff, too. I mean, look at what he threw in the 80s, right, for his velocity on the radar gun consistently.
And
not in the 90s. If he were to throw in the 90s and do what he did with the Tigers, eating up innings and really pitching quality ball more often than not. Now, last year, not as good. We did talk about that, touch on that. The Lobster wasn't as good, but still effective here and there and coming in for guys who were injured. And we needed that out of Lobstein when he provided it.
And you hear about the Pirates having success stories with all those arms in the past, which could come back to haunt the Tigers. A.J. Burnett had a resurgence, and they signed
Francisco Liriano, another guy.
Jay Happ, who was a 4 and 5 ERA in years with the Blue Jays.
Charlie Morton even got better.
Morton.
He was bad with the Pirates. They got him better. Yep.
Yeah, and Happ had a 1.90 ERA for the Pirates down the stretch
when they
last
got
year.
him. Yep.
When they got him, he
That's
was
elite
that
baseball.
good.
Yep.
Yeah, and
so you all share in my sentiment that maybe this one could bite us.
Could haunt them because he's going to the Pirates. That's a good point too. How they develop or redevelop these pitchers.
Their pitching
too.
coaches heard that you hear a lot of guys, a lot of pundits say he's the best pitching coach in the majors.
But right now, are the Tigers better off with Shane Green as a fifth starter? If they have to go to Shane Green, would you rather have him or Lobstein? That's a question because really Shane Green's one of those next guys. It's really Fulmer, maybe Matt Boyd, then Shane Green, or Fulmer, Shane Green, then Boyd, or it's Green first.
I wanted to see him battle it out. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see if Lobstein really was.
He deserved that chance to fight for his spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so Shane Green, because he tailed off, but now the excuse is that he was injured. And then, is Shane Green really the guy that started 4-0 and was looked at as potential, solids number 5? Or is he the guy that's going to be injury prone and give up gophers day in, day out?
Yeah, I don't think Shane Green's a starter at all. He's gonna.
But how he started, was that the real Shane Green? You're saying that wasn't the true effective Shane Green. That was just him being a fluke story there, right? Just having a moment or a few moments of brilliance, and that was it.
He's a guy that gives you innings in your bullpen. And if he is a spot starter, he's a spot starter. But he's nothing more than being a spot starter. He does have a good slider, but he doesn't have a lot of. He can't really mix and match too much because he doesn't have the overpowering stuff. He's a spot starter at best.
He's bullpen depth.
He's
but is
bullpen
it now,
depth.
How about Fulmer? How about Matt Boyd? Will they be used in those roles as well out of the pen as long relievers, as swing men, but also as middle relievers when necessary? Or do you think they'll keep Fulmer in the minors to start off? Talking about him specifically because it seems like Boyd will be used out of the pen right away if he does make the roster. And same thing with Shane Green as of right now.
Yeah, both those guys should be out of the pen, and they'll see if they. Fulmer's a guy where he gave innings in the minors. He has better stuff. His fastball, higher velocity. His breaking stuff is better, and he won an award this year in Double-A. So he's the guy that should emerge in those group of pitchers.
Do you risk, though, stunting his growth by moving him up to the majors right away and not to the rotation but to the pen instead of that roto? Would that ruin his growth, his development as a starting pitcher? The Tigers go in that direction.
He has to learn at the big league level to succeed. You can't just give up on a guy. If they want to demote him to the minors, maybe give him a couple starts to get his confidence back up. But it always doesn't work. Jeremy Hellickson's a perfect point. You mentioned about a guy that was young. He came up, he came on the scene, guns a-blazing, great year, great rookie campaign with the Rays, and he struggled when he got traded to the D-backs, and later on the Rays gave up on him. That's a guy that he didn't get innings in the minors, enough innings in the minors, and we saw what happened. But we also see a situation like Chris Sale, where he didn't really need, his stuff is so electric, but
he didn't need time in the minors. So just give it to me straight up here to end today's podcast. will Fulmer be on the opening day roster in the Tigers bullpen? And should he be, Dom? For you, if you were right now Avila, Brett Ausmus, would you say, hey, Fulmer, Michael, that's his first name, you're going into the bullpen from day one?
See, you got Verhagen there.
So you're saying you don't need Fulmer, so you would leave him in the minors.
I would leave him in the minors.
Is that the best
now.
decision then, to leave him in the minors?
Yeah, Drew Verhagen was very good last year. You have to go. He's a hot hand. He's hot in the second half. If Verhagen is terrible in spring training, then that question appears in your head. But at this point, you got to stick with Verhagen, and you keep Fulmer in the minors.
Dominic, with that being said, Merry Christmas to you and yours. I think I'll see you on Christmas Day, huh?
I think so.
I have to see him. No, I do love seeing him, too. Doc, I won't see you, so Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and yours. Happy Hanukkah as well to everybody else out there who's not celebrating Christmas with their loved ones. And that's all for today's podcast. Listen in once again next week to another fresh edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. Goodbye now.